Mind Reader by Lost Hairdressers. My name is Clint Mattoni, and I hope you enjoy the conversation. Before we get started today, please forgive us. This podcast was recorded in the back of a salon while Benjamin was in town, and we just had to make do with what we could make do with. Oddly, it's easier to do it when they are back home, even in New Zealand, to record a podcast and put it on. So the audio's not perfect, but it is good enough to hear, and I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I did. This is Clint. Enjoy the convo. Dude, you made it.
Yeah, I made it.
That's awesome.
Made it well.
With very little complication except for that.
It's just one big complication, but that's okay.
Oh my gosh, man. Okay, so Benjamin James.
Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast, man. It's I'm trying to remember how we first got acquainted. Like, I feel like you might have reached out to me first.
That's exactly what happened. I think I stumbled across Lost Hairdresser, and I just was like, I like what you do. And then you eventually asked me to do some stuff for you guys.
Yeah.
And that's how we stayed in touch.
Yeah, I think you did like one of the first just kind of text interviews for the website.
Yeah, right.
Ever. So
yeah, I think you're right, because it was just kind of. Was it picture based at that point?
Yeah,
like blog based.
Yeah,
at that
pretty
point?
much.
Yeah. Well, cool. Look, listen.
Yeah,
circles.
Dude, It kind of started as an Instagram,
right,
and then a website, and then I don't know what we're doing now. It's been a salon for half a second. It's been crazy.
What was the motive behind it? Like, what were you thinking when you're like, you know what, Lost Hairdresser? There's a place for this somewhere.
I think I just always felt a little bit outside of the industry. You know, and had kind of a tough time knowing like where I fit, right? Wow. I didn't feel like I had a typical entry into the space, and I think always like that kind of like imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And also when I first started doing hair, it was with Tony and Guy.
Right.
I pretty quickly got on the trade show, traveling with the trade show circuit, you know, as like I was doing like platform stuff.
Yep.
And I always felt weird there. Yep. It was kind of not my scene. No, yeah. And it was a lot of that. And then from there, moving from Texas to Los Angeles and trying to like insert myself into like a highly competitive hair scenario, you know, whether it's like trying to do fashion or film or TV,
right.
Or just being in the salon, it's just pretty competitive. Yeah.
It is competitive. I mean, I've been glancing around since being here, and it's competitive too. It's crazy competitive.
Man,
I want to touch back real quickly. I know this is your interview.
No, I like where you're taking.
But what I liked what you said was, you know, you were like kind of finding your space in the industry. I honestly believe that 90% of hairdressers out there feel like they don't belong out there.
Yeah.
I feel like they feel lost. They feel like they're not really sure if they've got what it takes, or the skills are quite there, or they're running with the right crowd or doing the right thing. I think hairdressers are very much in that space, and I think this helps bring people together. I think when people put their hand up and say, you know what, I don't really know what I'm doing, but we're giving it a crack,
right?
Everyone goes, oh, that's me.
Yeah, totally.
I'm doing that too.
Yeah, man, you're right. I mean, I think perhaps like any good artist is always maybe second guessing what they're doing, you know, and the thing that I love the most, and man, to be honest, like the scene is changing as far as like social media goes, you know, Lost Hairdressers, it's a mess, but the thing that I love, however you want to use it, about Lost Hairdressers is like the ability to expose someone who's not as known, you know, alongside like a Guido.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And really the only thing that matters is like the quality of work. That's my favorite thing. Now the algorithm is like, give us a reel, or you know, God.
Show me a blowout.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Can you do a soft tongue?
Yeah, exactly, dude.
Can you have some beach
I wish we used the term soft tongue here.
Oh, you don't use that?
Not really.
What do you say?
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Is it a beach wave or is like
it could be a beach wave or like,
right.
But soft tongue is way better.
Soft
man.
tongue. That's yours. You can have it.
Heck yeah, dude. That might be a band name.
Yeah, it could be a band. That's good. Soft tongue.
All right, cool.
Oh my gosh, have you heard soft tongue?
Soft tongue's ridiculous.
Bro, soft tongue.
Yeah, they're all Kiwis. It's so good. A band full of Kiwi hairdressers.
Yeah.
Okay, so so Lost Hairdressers has been a saga, and we'll talk about that. But like, tell me about kind of like before we get into hair, like where you come from, where you grew up, like.
Yeah. I grew up in a place called Upper Hutt, which is in Wellington, New Zealand. It's a pretty low socioeconomic area. It's pretty wholesome. Like it's not like wild crime or anything like that. It's just like people kind of stick to their own community, and there's not a lot of money, not a lot of wealth. And I was there till I was 17, and then moved into the city, into Wellington. Me and my wife at a party. We obviously weren't married at the time, but like we started dating and.
This is still in high school?
No, I was like I left. So I was actually 17. I didn't do university, but I finished school at 17. So that was my final year of high school. Nice. So I committed to all of that, and then wasn't really sure what I was doing. Kind of just mucking around and doing odd jobs here and there. I met my wife while I was an electrician.
Okay.
And then I was made redundant during the GFC in 2008.
Okay.
And I'd always cut my friend's hair. Just mucking around.
Wait, what's the GFC?
Is that GFC, the global financial crisis?
That's what I figured. Okay, cool.
And then so I'd always cut my mate's hair after a few beers on a Friday or Saturday night, and she was like, "Dude, why don't you be a hairdresser? You have so much fun."
Nice.
And I was like, "All right, let's go." So
that was your wife's suggestion.
That was my wife's suggestion, just to get into it. And, but that's honestly where I come from. There wasn't really much going for me in Upper Hutt. There's a lot of. Do you guys have the word bogan? Do you know what a bogan is? I do. Yeah. Just by way of knowing. Right. So a bogan is like a little white trash, a little bit hillbilly kind of. Sure. The Upper Hutt is fully bogan. Okay. So a kid with a skateboard and some skinny jeans doesn't fit. Got it. And so that was me. I needed to be out somewhere doing something else and expressing myself different ways and. Yeah, amazing. Wellington was it, and that's where I met my wife, and then it all kind of kicked off from there. All right, so you were a skateboarder? Yeah, man, grew up skateboarding. Nice. 100%. Cool, yeah, same. Yeah. I was working at a skate park going through hair school. Oh, sick. Yeah. Working at a skate park? It was an indoor skate park? Indoor, Right. Yeah, we don't have those in New Zealand. Do you not? No way. Yeah. You guys do everything enormous here. We arrived the same day that the Rose Bowl was on, and my wife couldn't understand that there were two college teams playing at that level. And I was like, oh no, that's just how Americans do sport. It must be just a matter of how much real estate, how much space we have. Yeah, I think you guys are kind of well. What's that? The capita, just the population is, I think. What's the capita of Los Angeles? I can't remember. But it's New Zealand is 5 million people. Yeah. We have to, let's look it up. Yeah. Let's look it up. It must be at least 3 times. I would say it's 20 million people, right? And that actually sounds right, but if it's not, I'll edit it out. 12 million. Oh, 12 million. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's still double and some. Yeah. And that's just Los Angeles alone. Just Los Angeles, man. This place is insane. Yes, it's crazy. Amazing. Yeah. So, was skateboarding very influential to you as far as culture, art, stuff like that? Hugely. That was how I expressed myself when I was a kid. My grip tape was always spray painted all over. The way I dressed was highly influenced by both Thrasher and Skateboard magazine and Transworld skateboarding at that time. And so I was looking at Roddy Mullen was the guy. Mike Vallely came on the scene and he was a bit tough. I met them on the same day. Dude. Yeah, right. Yeah. So he was a bit tough. So there was these kind of things, and then Dustin Dolan and the Piss Drunks came through, and obviously Andrew Reynolds changed his style during all that, and so I was constantly influenced by these people. Sure. I became obsessed with shoes during that situation. Shoes were a big thing to me. I wanted to know who was riding for what. Oh yeah. And there was Etnies, Osiris, DVS, all of it. That was definitely my generation of skateboarding, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, there was a moment in high school where if somebody asked me a skateboarder, I could tell you who all the sponsors were because I was just I'm obsessive. I get obsessed.
Yeah.
We talked about that earlier with the hobbies, but I'm obsessive. So skateboarding was an obsession for me. I mean, to be honest, I wasn't that good, but I could like kickflip and heel flip and like throw some ollies down some stairs. But
totally.
That was about it.
I think I could still ollie up a curve.
Yeah, I could definitely ollie up a curve.
Those.
I probably couldn't like crack a kickflip anymore.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think I could.
Yeah.
I want to.
Yeah, I'd love to, man.
Like, honestly,
it's
been on my mind lately.
Yeah.
But, precious wrists.
Yeah, that's right. They cost money.
That's a thing.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so then what's the entry point for hairdressing in New Zealand? Like, what is big there? Like, what do you do?
How do you get in?
Yeah.
So there's multiple ways into the industry in New Zealand. You can go straight to a salon and do an apprenticeship. Mm-hmm. So the same way it's measured as a trade in New Zealand. So it's measured the same way you measure a builder or a plumber or an electrician. So it literally sits in that same framework. Same with barbering as well. So we don't have like a cosmetic school so much.
Got it.
That's the best way, I genuinely think, because you're getting people who want you to make money for them, educating you to do what they need you to do. And I think it's an invested interest for everyone.
Yeah.
And then we do have trade schools. I don't like them. I don't think they're that good.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea that they trade money for teaching you something that they already know. I don't like that.
Yeah.
It feels yucky. I don't like it. And also the skill that comes from it is only as good as the educator. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Noted. So there are trade schools, but generally it's more common to do an apprenticeship at a salon.
Well, the weird thing about that is where I grew up in Wellington, when I first did my apprenticeship, I went to a salon called Rodney Wayne, which is kind of like a Tony Guy. They do have Tony Guy there, but it's a franchise situation in New Zealand. And I did my apprenticeship that way. But in Auckland, like where I live now, which is the biggest city in New Zealand, a lot of people go to trade school.
Okay.
And then what ends up happening is they come into a salon and they don't have the adequate skills. And so there's this real weird amalgamation of thought because like they come in thinking that they know what's up because they've finished all their trade.
Sure.
And we're like, what's that? What are you doing? Like, let's slow this down. Let's rethink this. So we often retrain people.
Got it.
Which, if you just come to us first,
you get it all at once.
You get it all at once, and you can still sit your cert as well. So,
yeah. There's been talk. I hope I'm not wrong about this, but there's been talk about doing that system in the States, but it's always been you go to cosmetology school, get your license, and then you can go apprentice somewhere, or you can just go straight to a cheap salon and start taking clients right away. But it makes so much sense. I know in Europe you go straight to the salon, you start an apprenticeship and that's how you learn. That makes so much sense.
I think because we based upon an English model. That's the English model, right? You go to a salon, you apprentice, then you come through and you do your gradings at that point.
Totally.
It's
such a waste of time. I mean, cosmetology school, you go and then you have to unlearn everything. You can go to a place like Sassoon or Tony and Guy and get like a good basis, but even still, like you're just having to either relearn or you go through another apprenticeship and then you learn how to talk to clients. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's a whole thing. So there is Sassoon here in the States, and it's massive, isn't it?
Sassoon's pretty big. I don't know what they've gone through as far as like who owns the name now,
I think his
or
daughter
if it's
owns the name.
Is it still his daughter?
I think so. I mean, I could be entirely wrong, but
so there is. I hope it's not but there is an academy in Santa Monica here. So I've been there before, and I mean it's still strong. Like people who come out of Sassoon are strong. Tony and Guy was kind of like not a rip-off, but it definitely branched off of Sassoon,
Yeah,
you know.
definitely. And those 90s, because I mean, if you think of Sassoon, it's early, isn't it? You know, so 60s, 70s.
Yep.
And then like Tony and Guy really pushed on that, and afterwards in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, especially when they came to the States, they really adopted. Actually, they literally adopted some people from Sassoon to kind of create their curriculum. So when I came on, I started in like 2000 with them, and they had some people from Sassoon who were developing their curriculum. But prior to coming to the States, they had, I mean, a good amount of time alongside Sassoon, definitely highly influenced. And then when it came to them wanting to like start a new curriculum for the States, you know, I think they really went with that. They dialed it back a lot, though. I mean, they simplified a lot of the techniques, you know, which is fine.
I find that quite interesting. Like when I think about American hairdressing, I think a lot about dressing. I think a lot about the dressing of the hair.
Yeah.
And when I think about English hairdressing, I often think about just the cutting of the hair.
I think you're pretty dead on. The only thing I would say is like, so growing up in Dallas, where Tony and Guy happened to land when they came to the States. Yeah, they tried LA. It didn't work out for whatever reason, and then they went to Dallas. Wow. I have my own theories about why. Right. Because I used to have a girlfriend in Italy, and I realized going there a lot that Italians love the show Dallas.
Oh, right.
Like the TV show. Right. And I'm like, that must be why. Like, they're just like, that's on the radar. They're going to go to South Fork Ranch.
Yeah. Well, Dallas is like bigger here. God, right?
Yes,
that's,
for sure.
That's not a Tony and Guy person.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's weird that they caught on there, but they did. So Tony and Guy made a successful salon in Dallas and then opened many salons there. So my exposure to hairdressing was Tony and Guy.
Yeah.
I would not have become a hairdresser aside from seeing it through that lens, because early 2000s they were doing all the cool hair, you know, everything that was shattered out and over texturized and all that stuff was Tony and Guy. That's all I cared to do. Like I wanted to I don't
want a perimeter, I just want a texture.
Yeah, I mean, as unfortunate as that is in the long run, that is how it was, and you could really hide behind
the texturizing,
you know,
and the blow dry.
Absolutely, but the blow dry was nothing. Everything was flat ironing.
Oh, right, so it's all
back
flat,
then.
Right?
All flat. You wanted it to be angular and edgy and all that stuff. And
lots of razor, or not really?
A fair amount of razor, but not like we hadn't entered into the Bumble
the Bumble
world
thing
of
really
razor.
Off.
Yeah, that's a
obviously
whole.
being New York orientated, that's a thing in New York. People love a razor.
I mean, it's a thing here. Like the owner is Bumble. So many people here are Bumble. You know, it has kind of crept into California, Northern California, Oakland, San Francisco is very Bumble. And it's pretty interesting. But Tony and Guy making it in Dallas is pretty wild. So, point being, I learned to do Tony and Guy hair, and there was plenty of precision, you know, bobs and graduated bobs and all that stuff. And unknowingly, I didn't really know how to dress hair.
Right.
I just didn't know it was a thing, right?
Yeah.
So I was very reliant on my haircuts, and then I moved to LA, and that's where it's like about dressing hair.
You can dress hair, right?
Yeah, because the haircut doesn't have to be that strong if you can make it look unreal when they leave the salon.
Amazing blowout.
Amazing blowout, you know, curling iron sets, and I really had to like reassess. Like, you know, that whole like lost hairdresser thing where I'm like, do I even belong here? Like, I think I need to go back to school. Benjamin of Salon Benjamin is a unbelievable hairdresser.
Right.
He's Welsh. And so his technique is like, I mean, honestly, even to this day,
second to none. Like,
I just have never seen anybody cut hair like him.
Wow.
I don't, he does not approach things in any way that I would ever do it, and he'll take 9 hours doing it, and it's amazing.
Right.
I would love to say that I was anywhere near there, but you know, he trained me a little bit, so I got something out of it.
Yeah.
But man, what a kick in the pants to come here and have to figure that out, and then apprenticing, you know, with editorial stylists and stuff here was an adventure. But
so is editorial a thing in LA? Like I wouldn't associate editorial as being an LA thing. I would obviously think New York would be.
It is. Yeah, you're right. I think definitely LA is more, you know, fashion
Like
not even
celebrity
celebrity
Yeah.
TV, that type of stuff. There has been over the time that I've lived here a push to get it here. Like I met James Petches here because he was doing
Yeah.
the Chloe show here.
Of course.
So they're starting to try to get fashion things happening here.
Yeah.
And so I do think like plenty of photo shoots happen here. The question
they do.
is,
Yeah.
like, are they going to hire an LA hairdresser, or are they going to fly in?
Duffy's coming in.
Duffy's coming in.
He's doing Saint Laurent, like and that's actually what's happening too, though, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's those things. They're not going to bring in an LA hairdresser to do so.
Yeah, which was beneficial to me because when I moved here, I was assisting, and I got on the list of like Duffy and Diego da Silva, and like it just dominoed where I did get to work and create relationships with them at the time, and then I got to go to New York, you know, every season, which was really cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's honestly that's what I love to do. That's the thing I love the most about
Yeah.
hairdressing is doing those things.
So tell me about that. So it obviously you started with cutting hair, right?
Yeah. So you
Go in salon,
go in
and then
salon,
tell me the
cutting
story.
Hair. So you're cutting hair. You're kind of like searching for something else. There's a New Zealand hairdresser named Richard Kavanagh who's kind of paved the way a little bit. You know, Richard. Paved the way a lot for editorial stylists in the Southern Hemisphere. Obviously, editorial's been a thing forever, but taking it to that next level, he ended up on a few shows with Guido, and then kind of like broke the ice, and then there's lots of relationships built with Cutler.
Yep.
And Redken through that situation, and so a couple of people in New Zealand, Sarah Alsop, kind of pushed into that and made that work for us. And so then for me, seeing other people do it is really what inspired me to do it, because I was like, well, if you can do that, I can do that. Let's do it. Let's go for it. So in New Zealand, it started smaller. You could kind of just like finding somebody that you like the way they shoot things,
Sure.
and you build a relationship with them. And then eventually, like, it got to the point where I was like, actually, I'm doing this regularly. I want to go do shows. So I took myself over to shows, London to start with, and then like London, Milan, Paris, and like consecutive seasons. The only thing that really stopped it was COVID, just in 2020. Like,
Sure.
it's just a bit much of a risk, you know. Like, I didn't want to come back or not be able to come back. And New Zealand at one stage isolated entirely. Like, they didn't let
Weren't they like
anyone
the
around.
last of?
Yeah, man. It was hectic, eh? Like, during COVID, we actually had to spend like 14 weeks off work as a salon. Like, the whole salon was shut down for 14
sure.
weeks.
So here too.
Yeah,
Here
wild.
too. Yeah, it was wild.
Like, nothing ever in the history of time. you
Yeah.
know? Like, when do you ever start hairdressing again?
Yeah.
Like, from nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it's so crazy.
Totally.
And so this coming February, I'll be back in London, Milan, and Paris, and alongside all the teams.
Yep.
Doing it again, eh?
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you. So go through like how you created these relationships, right? So did you know Richard?
So, yeah,
Like,
so
how did
Richard actually came on. So when I very first started hairdressing, there's a magazine in New Zealand called Headway magazine, and Richard was this straight man in a magazine covered in tattoos doing beautiful hair, and I was like, what the heck? Like, is this an option for me? Like, because I was surrounded around women and gay men, so I was like, didn't really know that was a thing I could do.
Yeah.
And so that he was working for Redken at the time. And then after he'd come off the back of shows with Guido, he actually signed a contract to be the creative director for Rodney Wayne.
Oh, wow.
And I was working for Rodney Wayne at the time, so we kind of like, we built up this relationship, and he kind of mentored the situation a bit, and so that was really nice to see him do that. But then it just kind of took me out some other ways, and I was working a lot with Sarah, who I mentioned before.
You did. What was her name?
Sarah Alsop is her name.
Alsop?
Yeah, Alsop. A-L-S-O-P.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And she kind of just showed you it was possible. Like, she just kind of like put a foot in your ass and was like, go do it. Like, what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
And so then I put myself in the right place at the right time for shows in London. Obviously, like, reached out to every agency I could find and just like hustled, like literally. Like, I hit the floor, and I think I made like 20 phone calls, just being like, hey, listen, I told you I was coming, I'm here. You know, like, every agent, most people didn't want to talk to me. I fired emails to everyone. I think I got like 3 emails back. I was actually put on hold for like 6 shows with Cynthia Harvey, and if they don't know who you are, they just release you. They just don't know who you are, right?
Yeah.
Like, why would they choose you, who they have no clue who you are or your skill set,
right,
over someone they do know? Like, they're just not going to, unless they need numbers, they're just not going to do it. And if nobody can vouch for you, they're just 100% not going to do it. And so I got released from those like the day of, which sucked, and then ended up on another show with Samantha Hillaby, but her daughter actually got like sick, and so she had to cancel her part of the show.
Oh wow.
And then I ended up on that same show with Martin Cullen, who used to be Eugene's like producer. And him and I just got on real well, and we ended up at a pub at like 10 o'clock in the morning and having a pint, and I don't really drink, so it was a weird time. And then we ended up like having some lunch at his house, and he like took me through all this kit and showed me all these amazing Japanese books, and then he was just like, just go after it, here's some contacts. And so I just like pushed in, and I think I got like 5 shows that first season, all unpaid to begin with, because I was just there. Literally, I think I sent an email to Ryan Mitchell, and I was like, hey bud, like, I'm from New Zealand, I'm here, no fee, I just came to come give a hand. And that was with Duffy. Ryan was Duffy's first assistant. And then they took me aboard and took me on for the next few seasons, and it was awesome.
I did some shows with Duffy in New York. But I did one circuit of London shows with Tony and Guy. But I never went to Europe with any of them. But I did I'm assuming around the same time, like work with Ryan and all those guys back then. But I did not stay the course. I got tired.
It is tiring.
It is tiring.
It's dragging, isn't it? Like, it gets real heavy, and like, you have families, and it's hard. You know?
It's hard. I think there was a time where I would do, living in LA, every 6 weeks I go to Dallas to do my clients there.
Wow.
Every 8 weeks I was going to New York because Benjamin was doing a pop-up there.
Right.
And then in between, if there was any travel, for hair, it just was like really a lot.
That is a lot.
Yeah, and so I kind of got out of the circuit of doing like the seasons in New York at least. But then again, like there are things I miss about it, and it helped me keep my finger on the pulse for Lost Hairdressers too, right? Because especially at that time, it was super hot, so people would be like, "Oh, like you're Lost Hairdressers," and I'm like, "Yeah." So that was cool, and I am feeling like I need to get back into that space.
I've actually never done New York. I've only ever done London, Milan, Paris.
I mean, I think if you're gonna
if I'm gonna go to the other side of the world, like to add to New York is another $1,700, and that's just flights. So accommodation in New York's not cheap. So, we're looking down a barrel of expensive trip. So
when you go next season, whose teams will you be on? Do you know?
So I reached out to Duffy's agent, and we've had a good chat. We'll talk about what's going on there. They've kept me in the mix. I've given them my first option for everything. I've got connections with Anthony Turner. I'll see what Guido's up to. Really would love to work with Paul Hanlon. He has been like, because he comes from that skateboarding thing. What we talked about before, you can see it through him, it drips through him. The essence of cool that skateboarding has, and but it's still nonchalantness. So when I was like an early young geeky hairdresser, which I'm still a geeky hairdresser, not a young one anymore. That's all right. Dude, I like poured through YouTube, and just the amount of content that Paul's got out there. I'll walk around my salon, and there's this is kind of embarrassing, but it's funny. There's a clip in one of his things where Paul yells out to someone. He says, "Julio, get me the Alnet." And this English accent, so I run around the salon back in New Zealand being like, "Julio," and then somebody will be like, "Get me the Alnet."
Nice.
Quite funny.
That's awesome. Are you still at Rodney Wayne, by the way?
No. So I left Rodney Wayne and went to another salon called Willis York, which is in Wellington City. It's a little bit more creative, kind of gave me way more creative freedom.
So is Wellington City near Auckland?
They're about an hour flight apart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They're a 6-hour drive.
So you said you live in Auckland, right?
Yeah, I live in Auckland, but I grew up in Wellington.
Got it.
And so
okay,
Rodney
so this
Wayne,
is still back then.
Yeah, still back then. So then from Rodney Wayne, I went to a place called Willis York. With a woman named Bex Brent. Bex has actually just won Colour Trophy, like Australasia, I believe. Like she's L'Oreal based and educated for them. Cool salon, super fun, super creative, kind of gave me all those freedoms to do what I wanted. She was pushing into that industry as well. That also showed me like platform hairdressing. I'd never done that before. So I did a lot of that with her and L'Oreal.
Cool.
Like you, didn't enjoy it. It's not, I don't want to like clap the cymbals on stage. I don't care. I don't care if you don't like what I do, as long as the person sitting in my seat or the producer likes what I'm doing. So it's really hard. I didn't really love that because I don't really like performing for people.
Sure.
And then I moved to Auckland to work with Greg at Ryder Salon. That's where I currently am. I'm still at Ryder. I've been there like 8 years now.
Awesome.
Is it 8 years? Could be more than that.
Okay.
I can't remember. But
And are you like a sole proprietor there, or you're?
yeah, so I'm a contractor to them.
Okay.
So that works for me and my travel.
Nice.
I'm not sure how privy that information is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I work myself through there, so that means that all that travel can be tax deducted and
Totally.
worked out, and we don't have to pay out of our own pockets.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you still prioritize going to have these experiences, obviously working shows,
Yeah.
those contacts, which is awesome. What is the editorial scene like in Auckland? Yeah.
Yeah, we had a couple of really cool magazines a long time ago, and when I went to Greg at Ryder, he had his finger on the pulse. He was like their hair director for the whole thing.
Okay.
That was one of the biggest reasons of me going there. I thought I really liked what he did. He comes from a cutting background, and his dressing, he'll be the first to tell you his dressing of hair isn't very strong.
Yeah.
But he's got an amazing way at looking at silhouette and thought and just like the juxtaposition of things. And he's like, well, if that's doing this, why isn't that doing this? And he's really about balance. It's really cool to look at his stuff like that. And when you look at it through his eye, it all makes sense.
Sure.
And you go, wow, this is really, really cool. So
Yeah.
that's a big reason for me to go there. And unfortunately, one of the editors passed away, and it kind of just slowed the flame down. So
What was it called?
It was called Black Magazine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
there actually probably was a few shoots done here. They had a big reach in England as well. And
Nice.
Yeah, but unfortunately that had to fall apart. It didn't fall apart; it just kind of came to an end. But doesn't really exist, man. It's there. Editorials exist. We do more tests now than we do anything else.
Uh-huh.
That's just fun. It's just for us and just for our Instagrams, and just because I've got an idea, or my photographer friend's got a good idea, or we'll just have a go at it. There's a couple of magazines. There's like a weekly paper-based magazine. There's Fashion Quarterly, which is just a fashion quarterly magazine. There's another. There's not a lot. If I'm being honest, there's not a lot. It's all predominantly online based now, right? So
is it common to go to Australia to do stuff?
yeah, I do a lot. I'd like to get there at least twice a year.
Okay.
And we'd go. My photographer friend and I will go for a week, and we'll smash out some stuff.
Nice.
Because Australia's big for it. There's a lot of stuff going on in Australia.
Is that mostly Melbourne or
Sydney? Yeah,
Oh, Sydney.
Sydney
Okay.
over Melbourne. Yeah.
Okay.
Although Melbourne is just outpopulated Sydney. Sydney, you would say, is the fashion capital of Australia. Actually, Richard lives in Sydney now. That's where a lot of his work is done.
Cool.
Sydney is, also without ragging on my own country, the Sydney models are just so much better.
Yeah.
It's because again, it comes down to population though, doesn't it?
Right.
Auckland itself has 1.5 million people in it. Sydney itself has the same population as New Zealand. It's like LA in comparison,
Sure.
So yeah, it's just bigger. And so the production's bigger, so the money's bigger, so the work has to be at a higher caliber, so the models have to be at a higher caliber. That's just really how it comes down.
Yeah. Is Auckland, obviously you've got the kind of the Maori background. Is it a pretty big melting pot aside from that, or not necessarily? Australia, you've got so
many cultures
Yeah.
in Australia. Not as many in New Zealand. Not like you'd see here. It's Pacifica. It's Māori. It's Pākehā. It's white Caucasian people.
Yeah.
Not really much more than that. There's a small Chinese community. That you wouldn't have here you have a Koreatown and stuff. You don't have that stuff in New Zealand. It doesn't really exist. It just there's not the population. So it doesn't really happen. There's a high Indian population, but nothing that you could say that's an Indian place or anything like that.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's like when you're into Sydney or something like that, and it is Italian, or it is Lebanese, or it is this, that. We don't have those kind of districts or boroughs or anything. Yeah.
So when you're looking to kind of fuel, your creative process, what are your resources?
This is where my geekiness and my obsession comes
out.
Yeah,
awesome.
So I'm obsessed with buying books.
Okay.
I love hairdressing books. Actually, I picked up a Tony and Guy almanac the other day. I'll send you a photo of it actually. It's like that big fat one, and I actually saw it in an In-Fringe magazine. I know Paul's first assistant.
Yeah.
And I sent her a photo, and I was like, "What's this book?"
Oh,
and
nice.
She's like, "I think it's the Tony and Guy one," and I like found it on eBay in the UK. And
I'm super curious which book this is.
I can't remember what it's called. I'll be able to find it, but yeah, it arrived just before we left New Zealand, so that was cool.
Yeah.
It honestly took like 4 months to get here, and the shipping was like 200 New Zealand dollars, but so it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I love pulling on those things. I like to see, obviously the shows are a huge inspiration as well, but just pulling on those old hairdressing techniques and those old thought processes and going, okay, so like that, you've done that like that, how can I do this? Or how can I think about this? Or,
yeah, it's great.
I love vintage hairdressing. Like I think that the fundamental of hairdressing is now gone. Wow. Maybe not gone, but you know what I'm saying, right? Yeah. It's being diluted significantly.
Right.
Especially when you're looking at things like social media and the way people are getting famous for the wrong reasons in the hairdressing industry. That's kind of sucky. So.
Yeah. So everything. It feels like everything good's getting diluted.
It does. You know. So I like to really pull on those, and and for that same way that you were talking about before, where you're like, do I kind of fit here? Like, if I can show you like a fucking banging, I just swore. Sorry. If I can show you a banging complex set, like. I can dress here. Like I know that I can do that, so I belong here. Yeah. And that's how I feel. Like I'm constantly feeling like I'm trying to prove people wrong just because I want to do the best hair I can. Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. It doesn't have to look beautiful to them, or it could be like, oh, it's dated or whatever. It's like if you know what you're looking at, and all good hairdressers know what they're looking at. Sure. They go, wow, look at the craft in that. Look at the thought process in that. Look at that. You know, that's. I'm appeasing those people. I don't. People don't. I mean, that sounds like a key element of self-confidence in the industry, like knowing and being confident in your technique. Then you don't have to worry about what other people think. It's irrelevant. That's awesome, man. So how would you describe and hopefully like I can get a lot of visuals for this podcast, right, to put so but how would you describe your style, and like how did you develop it? I really like, well, when we think about those people that we talked about before, the way Paul does here, the way Duffy does here, the way Guido does here, where it looks like nothing has happened, but we both know how much effort and how much work has gone to make that look like nothing. Yep. That's some of my favorite hairdressers. Same. I love it. When there's this cool story. This young girl started at our salon, and I'd just been on set the day before, and she comes in and she's like, oh, you went to set, like, what's that like? She'd never done anything like that before. And I was like, oh, yeah, it was cool. She's like, do you have any photos? I was like, yeah, actually, like, I stole a couple from the photographer. And she's like, can I have a look? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I showed her, and she's like, what did you even do? And I was like, you have no idea how much that means to me. Right. And she was like, what? Yeah. Like, she was so confused. And I was like, that took me an hour and a half. Yeah. And she's like, you didn't do anything. And so I showed her the model's actual hair, and she was like, well, how does it look so natural? Yeah. And I'm like, because of the work we put into it, the time and the effort that we put into it. So it was so cool. That was actually one of my favorite moments. So I love hair that looks undone. Yep. I love it when it's like, just happens to look that good. Yep. But I also like to pump up that as well. So like, how do I explain this? I've got this visual in my mind where it was like hot rollage or something like that, and we've dressed it out, but then we've kind of exacerbated the freedom of it. You know what I mean? So it's still done, it still looks really done, but then it's also got this nonchalantness about it as well. That makes sense. I've got this message, like, a touchable hair is sexy hair. That's even on set, touchable hair is sexy hair. Nobody wants to, unless you're doing like something really vinyled or really flat or really close silhouette, you want to be able to touch it, you want the model to touch it. She wants to feel sexy, and if her hair got a handful of hairspray every time she goes into it, she doesn't feel sexy. Sure. She doesn't look her best. You know. So do you tend to reach for the tongs? Do you tend to not want to use them? Like what's I do try to reach for the tongs. Well, no, it's not true. Like, that's the album name, by the way. Reach for the tongs. I like that. Reach for the tongs. I love movement in here. I think that's really beautiful, and if we can make, this sounds again a bit weird, but I'll often, take my son to school when he was younger, and and the little girls who had like a little braid in the back of their hair, and then like the hair just bent around her face just amazingly because it's like 3 days old and sweaty.
Yeah.
That's what I love.
Yep.
When it looks like that. And so the tongs obviously help you get there.
Uh-huh.
But I was listening to a podcast that Guido did a couple months ago, and he goes, "Are you just like," he basically called me out, and I was like, not purposely, like he was just like, you just a guy that throws a tong in and then like reaches for the ear or whatever?" And I was like, "Oh shit, that hurt." Like
Wow.
I better start putting craft back into hairdressing if Guido says it's gone, you know?
Don't piss off Guido.
Yeah, listen. It obviously wasn't specifically
Sure,
to me,
sure,
but
sure.
I was like, I love a little bit of ear in the hair.
I do
little
too,
wind,
man. I think that's like,
animates it, right?
that's the hardest thing is like I so like undone hair.
Yeah.
That, you know, it
Do you think that comes from you in the Tony and Guy? Like we had a chat out there.
It could.
I probably don't reach for as much product as I should.
Yeah.
Because of that? Like
Yeah,
that Tony
I think
and Guy.
so.
Like,
But
you
obviously,
might
like,
work
undone hair properly is very done.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's well done.
Yeah, it's well done. So I don't know. I just don't. I mean, just my personal style, like the music I like undone things. I like a certain amount of looseness with everything, you know. I like I don't like hard edges, really.
Right.
You know, I don't really, honestly, I hate like a Sassoon bob with that fringe. I hate it, dude. I cannot. I'm proud of people for being able to do it.
So,
Yeah, I know it's very hard, and I know it
Yeah.
took a lot of skill, but I just hate that stuff. I would rather, when I first started doing hair, my buddies who skated would be like, "Hey, we cut my hair," and it'd be in the kitchen, you know, and before I knew what I was doing, you know, and I just like that world. So, yeah, man.
It's interesting because I really like, when I'm cutting hair, I really like strong edges.
Yeah.
I want to see a perimeter because we both know how that grows, right? That grows so much nicer than nothing.
Totally.
But if I'm thinking about a graduated bob, I want to see that line in that back of the hair. That
Yeah. It depends, man. Like, I think when it comes to, like, you know, the structure of a graduated bob, you know, if you're looking at, like, the classic, like, Amelie French bob, you know, it needs to be executed beautifully, right? And it does need to be exact. But it more so probably in the finish. You know, I appreciate a strong haircut for sure.
Yeah.
The finish, though, like, I don't know, there are occasions for everything, you know, but I think I lean towards, when I started seeing, you know, the way Bumble approached, like, long hair and stuff, and, like, I really liked it, and I really, like, gravitated towards it. You know, I know, like, they're played out, but I just, like, love a beautiful shag. I think they look really awesome and lived in when the structure's right. It's 100%. Just an amazing thing.
We were down on Melrose today, and this girl had this, like, perfect shag.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit. I was like with my wife, and I was kind of like trying not to look at her, but like trying to, and my wife's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm trying to look at her haircut.
Yeah, it's the haircut. Come on. That's what we do.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. I think, I don't know. I think I'm 41. I've been in the hair game for a long time, you know, and I think that I have to figure out ways to kind of keep in the mix, you know. The longer you do hair behind the chair, the more you see the same clients, the more you're comfortable, you know. And I was at a time, like, where I was making myself uncomfortable a lot, which is obviously where you grow. And then now it's been a minute. You know?
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Well, same things with COVID. Like, it's been a long time.
Really.
Since feeling really uncomfortable. We have a small fashion week in New Zealand, and I directed a show.
Cool.
And
was that the first time?
Not like my first time at the show this caliber. Like, we have a New Zealand brand called Zambezi, which has got a massive following.
Okay.
Been around since like 1979. Like, it's a big brand, and they have a big relationship with the salon that I work for. And so I was given creative control over going forward, and it surprised me how comfortable I felt so quickly. Like, I was like, oh wow, I'm back here. Like, this is what this feels like. But I was actually really looking for the uncomfort part of it.
Sure,
you know? I was looking for that sweat and being like, I don't know how we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
But
or like, do I have it? Or,
well, yeah, exactly. But it didn't ever come, and it was a bit strange. And I was like, this
Well, maybe that's a good thing. What do you think? What do you think it would take to make you uncomfortable again? Like, what is a scenario
Italians yelling at you?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Italians yelling at you makes you uncomfortable, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not sure. Like, do you think you get to a place in your hairdressing career where you can look at something and you can break it down, where you can go, I can see how I could get there in that amount of time?
Yeah, I think so. I think that that's a natural place to get to, but also I think like this scenario and like, I think plenty of other aspects can make you second guess yourself, or I don't think you have to be there. Like, I think like if you're at a place where you own what you know and you're confident in it, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was in a place a couple of months ago. I worked for another company that will remain nameless for the moment, and I was put in a situation where they were really pushing social media, and that's not my strong point. I don't, like we've talked about, I don't social media for people to follow my likes, or I don't care. Sure. I just don't care that much. And they were really pushing that, and I was put in a room with some social media influencers who are hairdressers, and that made me feel really uncomfortable. I felt really uncomfortable in that environment. It didn't make me feel like I could do hair. It made me feel like I was getting it wrong. And what I found really interesting is we actually eventually ended up doing hair. And that's what I do. Like, I know I can do hair.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of smashed hair all day. Like, just smashed hair, like just stayed out of the way and smashed hair. And it was really interesting, the amount of comments that came from other people being like, oh, it's really apparent now who can do hair. And I was like, oh, listen, like, I just know that I can do this. And so that was a really
So wait, what was the scenario? Like, I don't...
It was a...
You don't have to say the company,
yeah,
but
it was a conference that I was working on. And they were just kind of briefing us about what we're doing in the future and how to do it. And, I was very vocal about not feeling super comfortable with it anyway.
And meaning you were not super comfortable with the social media aspect?
Yeah.
Meaning it was going to be up to you to produce content?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you're there with these people who all they do is produce content.
Literally.
They're great at it.
And they're amazing at it.
So
and they're machines. They crank it out. And it works for them. They do it so wildly well.
Yeah. Where did it come to the point where, like, was it from the company where they were like, oh, like, clearly you're the hairdresser and these people are social media influencers?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah. But it was not a comfortable situation.
Yeah, that seems uncomfortable for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Is
it the right reasons though? Because, like, is there integrity in what I'm doing, or am I being too standoffish? Should I put myself in those situations? See, it's a really tough dilemma I have with myself, and I was sitting there the entire time. I'm like, am I getting this wrong? Am I doing? These people they're making so much money and they're helping so many people, and they're putting themselves out there.
Yeah.
And I'm like not. And I'm not helping those people, and I'm like not putting myself out there and not making as much money. And
sure.
So, those things are all important.
Yeah.
That's why we hairdress.
I mean, yeah, they are. I think that there's probably just room for both, man.
Yeah, dude, I think you're right.
I think that, everything comes back to music for me, but like, there's a place for a pop artist and there's a place for the indie band. Like, there's a place for both. What you hope is that either side of it, there's integrity.
Yes.
Right? And when you see something, same with music, you see something that looks like it doesn't have integrity, that it's a machine, right? And maybe they're getting the content out there, they're getting, the sales, but is there integrity in that music? Is it doing ultimately more good than bad?
Yeah.
And I think that that's a pretty fair place to make a judgment call.
Yeah, that's a great stat, actually.
So, these people, there are some people out there who are these, influencer hairdressers that are great hairdressers. And there's some that, just know how to make content.
Yeah, 100%. When you think about Chris Appleton, he's a good hairdresser.
Yeah.
Like, he is a, phenomenal hairdresser. But he's also a social media hairdresser, isn't he?
I don't know if I even know who that is.
Chris Appleton? Are you joking?
No.
Oh, dude, Chris.
I don't know. Sometimes it's so much.
You'll look at it and be like, I know who that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Cool. I'm kind of curious.
Yeah.
some men, I like you, I you know, as much as it's ridiculous that I run a social media kind of company, I get really turned off by that stuff. So
Same.
like,
it doesn't excite me at all.
Chris Appleton, this guy.
Yeah, that guy. You actually don't follow him on there.
I will follow him. Dude. I will follow him.
He's actually like an incredible hairdresser.
Is this him?
That is him, and that is what his social media will look like.
Things are going well for him.
Very well. But he kind of like popped off and now he has Kim Kardashian's hair.
I've seen this guy for sure. Yeah.
You have. But
sorry, Chris.
he's a phenomenal hairdresser. You can see like he's got real integrity in his actual craft of his hairdressing. I think actually, if I'm not wrong, I think he worked for Malcolm Edwards in the UK for a few years because he's English.
That would make sense.
And that, I mean, obviously Malcolm has a huge amount of fundamental hairdressing, so I think that's kind of how it popped off for Chris. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But I have a thought process about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you know, I mean, obviously he's got the clients. You know, he himself has the look. Like, he's probably putting great content out there.
That's a really good content. Yeah.
So I should probably follow him.
Yeah, you should probably follow him. And just edit all of that.
Yeah. God, he's going to be pissed. But, you know, yeah, I don't know, man. It just, I guess, comes down to integrity. And, like, I think that should shine through no matter what, you know. I can't remember the name of this Australian girl that I follow.
Oh god, go on.
Dude, I love her, man. Like this Belle Pipsqueak.
Oh yeah, I know Belle.
Man, Belle's an amazing hairdresser. Like
amazing.
I love the stuff that she puts together. It's all this like kind of club kid, like raver stuff, and it's great, man. I think she's so good. She's got such like
she's cool, man.
Yeah,
she's really cool.
That's cool.
Really
she's
nice.
got a natural feel for like hair and proportions, and I really like her. Man. Yeah, she's cool. But
yeah, she is cool.
Yeah, man. I don't know, like. The world is weird for hairdressing right now.
Strange.
You know? It's strange. But yeah, for you, so let's see, man. We went off into social media zone. I'm trying to think of where I was at.
Social media's a pit.
It's a pit, but that's all right. Like it does cool things, you know, it unites folks, and I think like you know, me getting to meet you, you know, you all the way from New Zealand, like making these connections is super cool. So it has its place, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
What would you like to see like out of your career, you know,
dude, that is a good
like
question.
down the line, you know, like where do you want this to go? Is there an ultimate realization of what you do, or does it look like a product or something?
Yeah. What does it look like? Ultimately, like, if you're on a show, ultimately you want to be directing the show. That's really what you want to do, right? You want to crack off and you want to direct the show, and you want to have, you want to be able to express yourself on that highest stage. And that highest stage is either a Vogue Atelier or it's a fashion show in Paris. You know, that's how you express yourself the most and how you work with the best people to get to that place.
Sure.
So that would be huge. Like, I would love something like that. But I obviously know that there's a logistical error there. But that's not going to work for me unless I put myself in those places.
Yeah.
So that's...
Do you think you would ever leave New Zealand?
Yeah.
To, like,
Well,
make a
my
move
son
like
is
that?
14 now. So, you know, like, I'm 36. He'll be 18. I'll be 40.
Insane.
So, you know, I'm free. Like, I
Yeah.
get to start my
awesome,
you know,
man.
like we just did it backwards from everyone else. Everyone else is gonna start later. My best friend, we're actually here meeting his baby boy for the first time.
Cool.
He's 37, so you know, like there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just how it's done. But yeah, hopefully we can travel a little bit, do some things. I'd love to spend some more time in Sydney. I thought we were going to get to move to London last year. An opportunity popped up, but it kind of just fizzled out, so that was a bit of a shame. But otherwise, dude, I don't really know. I think I do have a bit of a knack for education. I think I can show a small group of people how to do something really, really well. And to think differently about how they're doing things as well. Like, I don't like to what I don't like people to do is just do what I tell them to do. I like them to understand why we do something, the way that we do something.
Sure.
And if you've got a better idea on how we do it, let's just do this way first, and then let's explore that way, because I think they're both valid. So I would like to do like some description of education for the right people at the right times.
Yeah.
I love educating my assistants, like our apprentices. I thoroughly enjoy it when they're in the right space and they want to learn.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Amazing, right? Like, have real breakthroughs with them. It's super, super cool. And
if you're teaching an assistant who's got their eye on editorial,
yeah,
what do you put in front of them first?
A brush.
Yep.
100%. You need to understand how to blow dry.
Yep.
Always, and you have to be ambidextrous with that as well. Like and firstly, because if you're on set with me, and I'm on the right side and you're on the left side, you can only blow dry with your right hand.
Yeah.
Like, how's that going to work? Because then the shape of the hair is going to be unbalanced. It's all going to flow the same way. So that's kind of what I teach them. I'm like, I want you to use both hands. I want you to understand this. And so it's lots of blow drying to start them on anything.
Yeah.
And then from blow drying go into tong. You know, and when we go into blow drying, we're talking about product application. We're talking about all that stuff and just thinking about what we're doing. Because I think as hairdressers, we get kind of just like in the zone and we talk to our clients and we don't really think about what we're doing.
Yeah.
Why'd you apply that product? You know, what were you doing?
Right.
Why did you do that? So just being a bit more intentful, showing them that and being like, this is why we do this is why we hex this, right. Anyway, but I like to do a little bit more of that for the right reasons. I'd like to leave the industry or something when it's kind of like all said and done. Like I don't want it to be a take relationship. I know that sounds bizarre because obviously we're in a service role, but I want the industry to kind of like be better off for me being a part of it at the end. That's really what I like ideally. Like, I think all of those things encapsulate that, don't they?
Yep.
You know, like if it's leaving your mark in shows or shoots, or if it's leaving your mark on people who you've come across the way, or it's a product or a byproduct. Yeah. If it can be better off once you're done, I think that's really where I'd like to be.
Who has done that, in your opinion? Like, because I'm curious as to what that looks like.
Yeah.
Who has?
So, I mean, so many people, because you think about, I think about the people who have directly impacted me, and they've obviously left a spot on me. Sure. I think about the people in the greater industries. I mean, like people that have like obviously influenced me hugely was my very first manager. She kind of said it was all okay. You know, we had Levi very quickly into my apprenticeship. That's my son, very quickly into our apprenticeship, and she was like, dude, it's going to be fine. Like, it's all okay. And then another man named Brendan Aldridge, same thing, like just imparted all his wisdom on me. And there's just been so many. And there's Sean Ree, Sarah Alsop, Richard Kavanagh, all these people, Greg Morrell, all these people pushing a little bits of them into me to take in. So as a me taking from them, definitely them. Sure. In a big picture thing, like if you think fashion wise, you can't go past Guido. Yeah. Like the dude is next level. Like, that's 100%. You know, like when everybody asks me, you know, clients get interested and they're like, oh, who's the best hairdresser in the world? I was like, wow, it all depends on who you talk to, you know. Sure. Like at that event that I was telling you about, there was a question. We were all standing in a line and there was a question, and the question was, step left if you like Guido Palau, or step right if you like Chris Appleton. Uh-huh. And what was really interesting is all like...
Was that really the two?
That's okay. The two, right? Yeah. And you're out here being like... But all the young people who use social media the most, sure, they all step right. Yeah. And they're like, who's Guido? Yeah. You know, like crazy to me. Yeah. But if you're in a fashion world and you're thinking about fashion things, he's left the fashion world with more than you could take. You know, like it's so much there. Yeah. But also Sam has as well, and there's obviously a product from Sam, Laurent Philippon, Bumble, like huge. What else? I mean, we talked about Vidal Sassoon earlier as well, and the Muscolo family as well. Like it's so big. It's such a cool thing to be a part of, and you can see all those people just wanting it to be better off without them. You know, like I think that's. Yeah, I think that's cool. Great, man. Yeah, I think it's great. I think, man, the Muscolo family is so interesting. They've had many cracks at whatever, like Anthony in particular. You know, like. Even just with Infringe, and I love Infringe, it's great, dude, it's right? Amazing, I mean, that's kind of what I set out to do with Lost Hairdressers, I can see that. But the resources were just not there to create you don't that. Have the Scholar family to teach you to find it. Unfortunately, no. You know, I knew them at a time, but but you know, they before Infringe, like they did Wig, right? You remember Wig, you know, and really.
I can't necessarily say that everything Tony and Guy has done has been for the better. It's definitely hit some weird times, but I think for Anthony, you know, has really done good for the industry, you know, and in kind of a low key way,
super low key way,
you know,
and I love that.
I do too. That's what I really
respect that.
Yep. Yeah. So, I'm really, really happy with what they've done and are doing, and that even when a door has shut, like they figured out another path to do it, you know. And
did you catch that hairdressing live with Eugene Solomon?
No.
Dude, amazing. Because Anthony's on set with them as well, and it's just so amazing. Like, obviously, Eugene's left so much behind us.
Eugene's, it's insane, man.
It's insane.
It's insane. I was on one of his shows here, and I was so nervous. And then I knew his first assistant from Tony and Guy.
Right.
And she was terrifying too. You know, I was just freaking totally clammed. Like, just the worst, you know. What a time.
It's funny that we get so scared of those things, because they don't, in the space and time that we're in, they matter, but in the big scheme of things, they don't really matter.
They don't. And that's a great thing to keep in mind, you know, to like put yourself there, put yourself in the mix. Be present. I mean, that was the best thing. The first time I went and did a show, God, dude, I had no business being there. I mean, 100%. Didn't have any business being there. The level of hairdressing that was happening around me was beyond me. Yeah. But, you know, a cool part about a show is it's going to get done.
Yeah.
And you're going to realize what you need to work on.
Yep.
And if they like you enough, and if you're proactive enough, you can get invited back.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I was probably very similar in that same place.
Yeah.
But my initiative put me back there because they liked my personality and they liked how I interacted with their team. And I think that's really what it's about. Like, I think people can learn things. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole. They don't want you back.
Yep. But there aren't any of those in our industry.
Nah, none. I've never met one.
Not one. Amazing. Yeah, I gotta say, man, people were really patient with me. I remember being on maybe the second round of shows. So James Petches came here, did a Chloe show. I got on that show, and afterwards I was like, hey, like, he was my favorite.
Yeah.
Because same deal, music, skateboarding.
Yeah.
You know, and like, I was like, okay, you do what I like, so, you know, you're my guy. And I remember the first round of shows I got invited on, I became pretty good friends with his assistant, Holly, who's like so amazing at hair. And they liked me enough, but, you know, I was trying to help as much as I could. I was not probably super helpful, but I realized the things I needed to learn for next season.
Yeah.
One in particular was learning how to braid.
Yeah.
You know, and really learning how to braid, you know, and so I practiced, man.
Yeah.
Like the whole off season, I practice every day, and I go back and I'm on set and I'm feeling like super confident. You know,
single braid then.
Well, no, we did. I got to braid, you know, and I'm there and I'm like trying to turn them out, you know, and after the show, James comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, so I saw you braiding." I'm like, yeah, cool. He's like, I would like you to turn your hands the opposite direction when you braid, though. And so basically, like, I needed to unlearn everything I've been working on at that point and, like, turn my hands the opposite way and learn how to do it a whole new way, which was the better way.
Right.
It's just that wasn't the direction I got, you know?
Right.
And so anyway, patience. Like, he was definitely very patient with me, and that was really cool. So I missed that. It was really fun days.
They are fun, aren't they?
Yeah. But that's cool, man. I mean, with your son being 14 and him feasibly, you know, conceptually being an adult soon, you know, that's really cool. It'll be really great to see, like, what you get into, you know, or where you end up, or, you know, you've got your whole world ahead of you, man.
Whole thing there, right? I'm obsessed with tools, so I'd like to dabble in the tool world.
Yeah.
Both, like, brushes, combs, and hot tools. I love. I'm obsessed. I just get obsessed with things.
Good.
Obviously Japanese culture and Japanese hairdressing is a huge thing as well, and the way they do things. And I'd love to get amongst there and produce some things in Japan, you know?
Dude, yes, that would be so cool, man. I always said, like, you think you're, like, useful until the Japanese assistant comes up next to you and they're, like, the most prepared and they've got
most
just,
efficient,
you know,
like, and they're so able to slip in and out of situations.
Without a
amazing,
word,
yeah.
just great. Yeah, man, that the hairdressing over there is really something else.
Yeah.
And it'd be cool to, like, really be over there and work with that texture of hair too.
Yeah.
I think I don't know, brings a lot of potential to, like, manipulate a texture, and
Absolutely.
yeah, it's really cool.
Absolutely.
Well, you have to keep us posted, man, and we'll have to
Yeah.
do, like, a round 2, and we'll do it, like,
Sounds good.
we'll find a time
Yeah, I'll be in
between
LA
here and New Zealand, or come back.
Yeah.
Come back anytime,
in
man.
Auckland, mountain biking.
Dude, yes. I'm gonna come out there for sure. We'll get together.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, that would be awesome, man. I think we covered a lot.
Dude,
I think that's
every week,
good.
right?
I don't even know what time or how long we've been doing it, but thanks for doing it, man.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
Super
actually.
cool.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad it all worked out. It was so perfect.
Yeah,
It was
seriously.
strange how easily it worked, actually.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
and especially you caught me in between 2 trips. I'm
Yeah,
going to
right.
Dallas this weekend, and I
Right.
just got back from
So you
Vegas.
still go to Dallas to do cuts back there?
Every
You still
6
go to
weeks.
cuts? Really?
Yeah, for 14 years, every 6 weeks. Yeah,
Must be financially viable for you.
it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It used to be better. I used to.
Okay.
So Lost Hairdressers was briefly a salon in Dallas.
Right.
But right before COVID, we opened, and it was a beautiful location, but ended up being complicated with partners.
Right. So
Someone
you couldn't
tried-
get back, obviously, and they're like, what are you doing?
It was wild, dude. So for a minute, I really had a free place to work in Dallas, right? Now I rent the chair there. I buy the airfare. I pay for this chair while I'm gone.
Yep.
It's getting more expensive, you know?
Yep.
So got to figure out some method. But I don't know if salon
So you still have
ownership.
to pay for the chair while you're here?
Yeah.
While you're not here?
Yeah.
Because somebody else wants it?
Well, just because, like, that, yeah, that's my property, you
Yeah,
know? And
right.
so I had a guy briefly come from Dallas who wanted to build a clientele here,
Swap. Yeah.
which looked like it was going to work out, but it didn't.
Okay.
But that would have been ideal,
Yeah,
you know,
that'd be
have
great.
somebody to pay for it while I'm gone. But
Yeah.
you know,
And what is it worth a month? Just curious.
I pay 175 a day,
Okay.
so
That's great.
yeah, it's not terrible.
That's good.
Yeah, it's good. But when you're not there and you're paying for it, it's kind of
Yeah, that sucks, dude. Yeah. And so only the days that you were working though, right? So only the 3 days a week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Cool.
Yeah,
Dude, that's good.
yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was looking at, I actually needed a haircut and I was looking around and, I was looking at Salon Benjamin.
yeah.
And I was like, dude, that's $350 US a haircut, not including a tip. And I was like, holy shit. Like,
Yeah.
that is wild.
It's wild. It's wild.
How?
Well, that area,
Yeah.
like, I think I worked for Benjamin for 7 or 8 years.
Right.
West Hollywood, Beverly Hills, that area, obviously, like, there's a ton of money there.
Yeah.
Benjamin, in particular, brought the money, but also, like, the trend, like, the trendy people. So the musicians, everybody, they go to Benjamin, right? And rightly so. Like, it is a cool salon,
Yeah, it's a
cool
place.
spot, great. So for me personally, like, that clientele was cool stories, not great experiences, right?
Really?
Yeah, for me, right? So Benjamin opened up a salon in the Arts District downtown.
Yeah.
When they opened that up, I was out. I was
Yeah,
like,
like,
I'm
oh,
going
yeah.
there. I loved that scene. Like,
Yeah,
it was just
that's my
more
space.
East Side for me. East Side, you get the artists, you get musicians, you get all that stuff. There's just like a little bit less of like the pretense. So it was perfect. That didn't end up working out for them the way they thought. So
Okay.
ultimately, and then COVID hit. It's a long story, but
Right.
ultimately,
Cut it down.
ultimately they were like, hey, if you want to work for us, you can still work downtown, but there's not going to be any support staff.
Oh,
And-
wow.
Or otherwise, you can come back to West Hollywood.
Yeah, right.
And by that point, I was like, dude, did not want to work.
I'm
in
not
West
going
Hollywood.
back to West Hollywood.
Yeah, but so that was kind of in a roundabout way my departure
Yeah.
from that world. But yeah, Benjamin. I mean, it's a great space,
Yeah,
great
right.
salon, great team. I think when I started there, it was smaller. Smaller team, really like beautiful culture.
Right.
We had art history class monthly,
What?
like legit art history class. The professor would come, and there was one salon. So as locations come, the owner gets spread thin. Your contact with them gets thinner.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as much as you want to build a culture that gets passed on, right? It's very hard to do. It's hard to do. You got to be around, right?
Oh, you have to be around.
Yeah. So we would get like less and less of Benjamin, and I think it was easy to kind of like pull away by the end of it, but really like nothing but love. Benjamin's fantastic. There's another hairdresser there named Pamela Neal,
right,
who's just like
insane.
I mean, insane. So lots of love for that world and them. But 350 baseline, huh? I haven't looked in a long time.
It was hectic. I mean, I think that was like right up there on the top price. But
Okay.
I was like,
I was like, if that's the base, then things have changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our prices
They're not that.
Yeah.
Like, my boss charges like 200.
Okay.
I charge like 185.
Okay.
NZD.
Is that US? That's
NZD. So that's like 200 New Zealand dollars. But I think it's about 130 American.
Okay.
Maybe even less than that.
Yeah, but it's all relative. I mean, it's
Yeah, of course. And actually, while I'm here, I've really tried not to convert things in my head. Like, just, is that worth that amount of money? So, yeah, cool, but, it's not. Otherwise, you're just sitting there racking, like, oh, I don't want to spend $80 on that. Dude, it says it's 50, like, relax.
It's totally wild.
Yeah. So prices are a thing, and you're kind of capped by your price, obviously, but...
Well, there was a time I was charging more than I'm charging now.
Mm.
And I actually went back down so that I could cut the people's hair that I wanted to cut.
Wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting you say that, because I feel the same way as well. Like, sometimes I'm like, I've priced so many people out of my market now, and that kind of sucks.
It kind of sucks.
I really enjoy cutting your hair.
Yeah. So I feel like there is a balance, right? Like, you got to support your family, you got to make a living.
You've still got to make money.
So there's a balance, and I feel like I've hit that. I feel like I'm there. Yeah. Like, I charge $175 here, which, with I actually here I moved it to hour and a half.
Yep.
In Dallas, I do hour at $150.
Yep.
Here, I can afford to take a longer appointment, and I really try to enjoy it.
Yeah, right. Take that time, and it's so much nicer when you don't have to rush a blow dry, right? It's just so much.
I love it.
And do you control your own books, or does
I control them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, they can do it for me, but I just I kind of have always had a contact me thing with all my clients, since day one.
Yeah.
So man, I think hour and a half, $175. I could squeeze it. I could make more. I just feel like this is good.
This is optimum.
Me and my clients have a good relationship. They don't feel like,
Yeah, they're not rushed.
Yeah.
It's like an easy dialogue. Everything works.
Yeah.
And that's really important, because I mean, you do really just run behind them sometimes. Those things just happen, and
totally.
If they're sitting there for an hour appointment and you've run 20 minutes into their appointment,
it's so easy for that appointment to disappear.
Yeah. 40 minutes deep, and then you're going, shit.
Yeah, that's my time in Dallas.
Yeah.
And I would like it, I've raised my prices in Dallas, but I really would like it to be similar. I would like to space them out, but then I can't do all my clients. I do 10 to 12 a day.
Yeah, right.
And it's just, and unfortunately we got cut off. But please bear with us as we continue to work out the kinks of this new podcast.